Hello everyone, welcome to this live demo session on SAP UI5 and Fiori training. In next 40 minutes in this demo session, we will discuss about how to create your first model view controller based UI5 and Fiori application using SAP Web IDE tool. In this demo session, we will also cover an overview of our main course. What is that we will be covering in phases? And we will also make you understand who can learn this course. So let's get started with 4 simple phases to learn SAP UI5 and Fiori and say no to copy paste. Usually, when you attend trainings online on any of the technologies, you would see trainers tend to copy paste the code from the internet and they show you the output, and that's how they continue with their trainings. But when it comes to our trainings, you would see that we will not do any copy paste of code. Rather, we will write every single line of code in front of you so that you get a complete idea about each line. In case if you have any production issues in future, you will be also able to fix them up with this methodology of learning. Our SAP UI5 and Fiori training is designed to make you hero from zero. So this course is divided into 4 phases. The first phase is SAP UI5 Foundation, which includes HTML5, CSS, JavaScript, and jQuery. And that's why we mentioned that there is no prerequisite for you to get started with our course on UI5, because all the prerequisites we will cover as part of the course itself. In the phase 2 of the course, we will move to SAP UI5 framework development using best practices like MVC architecture. We will understand what is SAP Software Development Kit for SAP UI5. And of course, we will also learn the most important tool, so-called SAP Web IDE, for developing Fiori applications. Then we will talk about SAP Fiori user experience, how to use SAP Mobile Library to design, develop, and deliver your end-to-end Fiori applications. Finally, we will learn how to create OData services in SAP NetWeaver gateway system and consume your ERP data in your Fiori application. Please note that the way you develop these OData services will be same either you are on ECC, Suite on HANA, or on S4 HANA. So we will talk about some of the key components in a way that no matter which type of product you are using, you will be able to design and develop OData services and finally consume these OData services from Fiori side and deploy your application in SAP server. And from there on, you will also be able to give access to your end user using SAP Fiori Launchpad. So as I mentioned, this course is specially designed for all the consultants who aspire to become a UI developer. Maybe till today you are working as a SAP BW or SAP ABAP developer, or you could be a functional consultant, or maybe you are a SAP Portal or WebDyn Pro consultant. We have made sure that we design this course in a way that it will fit to all your need, no matter what is your current background. We will be doing all the learning from scratch. This course is designed in a way with which anyone can learn SAP UI5 and Fiori. You will get complete end-to-end learning with all the best practices as well as the development tool, so-called Web IDE. Now, you don't need to know anything about SAP Web IDE. In our first session, we will cover how to set up Web IDE, both Web IDE personal as well as full stack edition in your local machine so that you can get started with the development. We will look at the complete life cycle of an application, starting from development system to quality to production. And all of this integrated with landscape, with any kind of system, be it SAP ECC, Suite on HANA, or on S4 HANA. So let's look at quickly the evolution of SAP UI technologies. So with ECC, typically we use SAP classical GUI-based applications, which are built using ABAP programming language, so-called your dialog programming to design your UIs. Then with Business Suite, more technology advancements have come in along with the web-based technologies like BSPs and web intros with SAP Web Application Server. And now with the latest SAP S4 HANA, as you see, the default experience is SAP Fiori. Also, all your classical screens are visually harmonized in order to give same look and feel to your applications. Also, we have Fiori elements with annotations, which are the UIs completely driven by the metadata services. So in this course, you will get a complete idea of types of Fiori applications to develop and when to use which type of application at what time. All of this you will be getting through this course. So let's get started our demo session. So what we're going to see today, we will start with basics of SAP UI5 and MVC architecture. So what is UI5? The very first question comes in our mind when we hear somebody talking in our company about SAP UI5. What is it? So SAP UI5 is a framework. Why it is called a framework? Because it's a collection of libraries. So a framework is something which is a collection of libraries. What is a library? Library is a collection of classes. And what is a class? A class is a collection of attributes, methods, so-called behaviors, and events, and aggregations. So SAP UI5 is a framework which allows us to use ready-to or ready-made classes to create a responsive web application. Why we call it as a responsive web application? As you see these days, more and more users are consuming our business applications over the mobile phone and tablets. SAP UI5 is such a UI technology which is based on open standards, which we will also be discussing in our unit 1 to 10 in the course. And that's what gives a great advantage for you to make this application run across multiple platforms, browsers, and devices. So that's the main advantage of SAP UI5 as compared to your classical web-based applications. So we will be discussing all this during our classes. So now today, what I will show you creating a very simple UI5 app using SAP Web IDE tool using MVC architecture. So whenever you design an application, you need to also keep it in mind that the application should follow the best practices. So when we design an SAP UI5 application, the best practice is we should use so-called MVC architecture. What is MVC architecture? It is called model, view, and controller. In simple word, if you see, MVC is nothing but your input-output, which is processed by the view, your processing logic, which is processed by the controller, and your model, which is nothing but your data. So anytime you start learning any technology in software world, you would see there's something input-output with which you will communicate with your end user. You will have some business logic, the processing, and you will have your data. So that's what the MVC is based on. We will cover detailed about MVC in our chapter number 11 when we go to the main course. So potentially today we will use the tool which is provided by SAP to build applications. So whenever you start programming, the couple of things you will always keep it in mind. The first thing is which tool to use. So you remember when we start learning C programming during our college days or school days, we start with C compiler. So in this case, our preferred tool is Web IDE. Why it is called Web IDE? Web IDE is because it's a web-based tool. So in our next class, we will learn how to set up Web IDE in our system. So for today's demo, I have already set up the Web IDE as part of my system. So today I will not show you how to set up Web IDE, but in our first session tomorrow, I will show you how to set up Web IDE in your system. Even you are very new to SAP UI5, don't worry. We will cover how to do these necessary setups in your machine so that you can get started with the learning. Then the next step is once you have your required development environment set up, the second process comes is how to code. So for that, now I will be using something called a template. A template is nothing but kind of a skeleton of a project which we will be creating. So we will be using a skeleton provided by Web IDE to create our first project. And then finally comes is the output. How do you run? So how do you get the output? How would you see the output? So of course, in step 2, we will also put some code to show something to the user on the screen. And then finally, we will say how to show results. So we will maybe take a very simple screen where we will display the results. So we will basically execute our project. We will see how to execute our project to show the result to the user. As I mentioned, it's a web-based technology. So you will be seeing the result directly in your browser. Yeah. So these are all the 3 easy steps. So let's get started with our development tool, so-called Web IDE. Again, I would like to reiterate that I will show you in next session how to set up this tool in your local machine. Today it's a demo session, hence I'm not covering that in this demo session. So let's get started. So this is our development tool, so-called Web IDE. You could see it looks more or less like your any programming environment. If you ever work with SEAT, for example, if you're an ABAP developer, you would have worked with SEAT, or you are a Java developer, you would have worked with Eclipse environment. So it's more like same environment. So on the left side, you will have your Project Explorer, PE, and on the right side, you will have your Object Explorer or the code editor where you can start writing your program. Yeah. So now I will get started with a project here. So I will right click on my topmost node and I say, please create a new project, and I'll choose project from template. So now you can see there are a variety of blueprints provided by SAP. Of course, before we understand these blueprints, we need to be thorough on the concept side. This is what our main goal will be in the initial days of the training, to understand what are all the different types of objects which we create in a UI5 project, like model, view, controller, fragments, formatters, component.js, routing, manifest. All these things we will learn from scratch. But today for the demo, I'm just showing you the simple flow so that you can understand how exactly we can get started with our first project. So now I will choose here maybe SAP Fiori application, and I will go with an first SAP UI5 application. Now, of course, we are choosing this as our preferred blueprint. I will say next, and now we will provide a project name. So I can just give a demo. So let's say demo June 2020. And now I will give a name space for the project. So namespace is nothing but which makes your project unique across your company. So there are multiple development teams in your company who are developing UI5 apps. So the namespace what makes your company and your project in the team unique. For example, I'm working with company Anubhav Trainings. So I can say Anubhav Trainings. I'm working on finance department, so I can say finance. So this is how my namespace makes my project unique. Now I can say next. And as I was mentioning MVC, you can see we are now here to create a view. So as I mentioned, a view is nothing but your input output, how you receive input from user and how do you present the result to the user on the screen. So now I will just create a new view. So there are different types of views in SAP UI5. We will learn about them in chapter number 14. There are views like XML view, JavaScript view, JSON view, and HTML view. I'm going to cover all of them for you in the course. But today, for demonstration purpose, we will create an XML view. Don't worry, if you are new to XML, I will also cover in chapter 12 about what is XML. So let's create a main view with the name main, and I'll say finish. So you would see here a new project has been created with a web application folder inside, and now system has created a basic skeleton of our app. Important is to go to view section, and here is where you can see your first view is created. So more or less it's like a tree data structure. You can see any app which you see, it is structured in a tree data structure. And now I can go ahead and add inside this content a new control. For example, I want to show you a button on the screen, so I can create a button inside with a text property. And I will say, click me. Yeah. And I will just create my button control. So don't worry about this. What is this XML looks complex? Don't worry. I know you are seeing it for the first time, some of you. So it may look like little difficult for you to appetite this XML structure, but don't worry. We will cover all of these from scratch. And in fact, we will write every single line of code in front of you to make you understand these things and these namespaces. So for today's demo, the idea is to just see the overview and just have a first look and feel of our first app. So now I have created a button object inside, say so-called click me. So that's all. Now the next question may come is, what is this button object? Where are we taking this button object from? So for that, the SAP provides something called SAP UI5 SDK. So I can go to SAP UI5.hana.ondemand. And here is where we can see something called an API reference. This is also called SAP UI5 API reference, or called SDK, Software Development Kit, where we can go and check for the object which we are looking for. So here you can see complete documentation of all the buttons. As I was mentioning, it's a framework which is a collection of libraries and classes. So button is a class. You can see here, when I hover, it shows me class SAPM button. If I go to this class properties, I can find here there's a text property, and that's what exactly I was using in my class declaration over here. Yeah, simple. So now I hope you're able to connect these pieces. So similarly, if you go to events, you will see there is an event called press event. So whenever user click on the button, what should happen? That is controlled by an event. So we'll also add an event here. So now I will say press, and I'll say when user click, it's going to call my processing logic. And as you all know, just by introduction, the processing logic is implemented inside a controller. So we are going to go back and we will write quickly a code, a method in our controller. So now I'm going to take this name and I go to the controller, and this is our controller section. So what is this? This syntax here, we will call this, or we will understand this in chapter number 17, where I will explain you about scaffolding, template, as well as AMD like syntax. So don't worry about write this at the moment. It's just a demo. But for now, we can simply go back and we can write here our function of what to do when this button is clicked. So whenever that button is clicked, what to do is what you write here. And I will say alert, and I'll say bonjour UI5. So hello UI5. So alert is a function which is a JavaScript function, built-in function, which allows you to show something on the screen. So whenever button is pressed, this event handler will trigger, and then this code get executed. So it's good. Now we have our first UI5 project which is ready. we can go ahead and execute this. So I can select our project and click on this tiny little button called run. So we have completed our phase 1 and phase 2. So we have created a project from the template, and we have also added our code, the first view code to add a button, and then on click of the button, the processing logic for the button we have also written. And then finally, it's time to run and show the result. So let's select the project and click on this run button. And you can see it automatically launches my browser. And now I get a beautiful mobile-like application view. And here is we have got our first button. The good news is you can also test this mobile app here. Just press F12 key on your browser, and you can switch and turn your browser into a mobile device. Yes, and I can choose here like how will this app look like in an iPhone 6. So I can turn my browser in a mobile device like view, and then I can also just flip it. We can also enable here the device ruler or device frame, and now you can see how will it look like in a mobile device. So this is how our application will look like. Of course, there are a lot of advantages of using SAP UI5 framework, which you will get to know as and when the course progress further. You will understand it much better, why we should use SAP UI5 and abandon the use of those classical GUI or classical WebIDE based applications. So now I click and you see Bonjour UI5, my pop-up comes up. Yeah, so that's my pop-up. That's my result or output. I can also switch back to the desktop mode. And of course, the same will work on the desktop as well. So this way you can also check quickly your mobile view of a UI5 application. So that's the whole process of your first UI5 app. Of course, there's a great learning ahead. We will be learning what is this model does, I18N, CSS, or probably this component.js. What is these different files? They are known as artifacts. So we will be learning these different artifacts, the purpose of each of the artifacts, how to create these different artifacts step by step, line by line, without any copy paste of code, and also understand this tooling, how to effectively use the Web IDE tool to be able to develop your first UI5 and Fiori application in the system. So I guess that's it from my side. I hope you enjoyed this demo session. It was a short one, but yes, this will give you an idea of how can we get started with our first UI5 application. So with that, Anubhav signing out. If you're willing to join this course, which is starting from today, the latest up-to-date 2020 batch, you can join us and drop an email on install.abap@gmail.com, or you can also visit us on anubhavtrainings.com to subscribe for this course. And we will start the sessions from tomorrow. The timings are already updated in the email which we have sent it to you, and you can also join us right from tomorrow. And our tomorrow's topic is how to set up SAP Web IDE in your system if you are very new to it. So with that, Anubhav signing out. Thank you so much for attending this demo session, and I will see you in the next session. Goodbye.